Welcome to another episode of Castle Cats
Horror Potcat.
with a Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2.
Part 2. Freddy's Dead. Part 6.
That's where we're continuing off from the previous one.
Left.
So, Freddy's dead. The final nightmare when they finally kill Freddy Krueger off forever!
Meow.
And we never see...
Of course there should be Freddy's Dead, the final nightmare question mark.
I believe this film is the only film to have been directed by a female, by Rachel Talalay,
Yes.
who had worked on a number of John Waters films.
She was a producer on John Walter's films. She worked with the likes of...
Hairspray,
Uh-huh.
Cry Baby,
Yeah.
and Polyester.
Right.
And I heard John Waters even had something to do with her wedding.
Oh, did he marry them?
Something of the sort. I forget.
People do that these days. Anyone can marry anyone these days. It's like a right of law and passage. You've lived long enough, you marry someone.
Another interesting thing I found with this film was both Rachel Talalay and Lisa Zane are both from Chicago, Illinois.
Oh, what's her name? Zane? Lisa Zane?
Lisa Zane, the older sister.
Yeah, the older sister of Billy Zane. Count Cat's looking at me because he's taking all the facts that we shared. I said, I'm not sharing my facts with you anymore.
I looked it up first.
I know, I told you about it first, and then you read it later. But I asked, no, you actually asked. You said, is Zane related to Billy Zane? I wonder if Lisa Zane is related to Billy Zane. And then I looked it up, and I said, yes, they are.
Yeah, I asked that before the convention we went to last, though, as well.
Yeah, very
She
good.
was there.
But you're taking most of my facts.
Yeah, you got it. We'll run out of them. So anyways, Rachel Talalay also worked on other films such as Tank Girl and I Don't Know What Else. Also, coming off of the film Cry Baby with Johnny Depp, she managed to wrangle him back into the film as Glenn for his anti-drug PSA nightmare commercial.
She told him, I wanted to be a really sincere teenager delivering this message. He really didn't want to do it.
But he had to.
Why?
Or else she would tell everyone that he was a crybaby.
So yeah, because Rachel was a producer on Crybaby, she got a lot of her staff to come on board for Nightmare 6, including Tracy Lord's husband, who was part of the special effects crew, and
We hear that Iggy Pop made an appearance in
oh yeah,
Crybaby.
Cal didn't even recognize Alice Cooper in this one.
It's true. Alice Cooper is in the film as Fred Krueger's father.
Stepfather, the man that was abusive and beating him. So
Time to
here's the
take your
story.
medicine.
I'm pretty sure you guys all know the story already.
No, they don't. There's people who have never heard it. We have to ruin it for them, yeah.
Okay, Nightmare 6, Freddy's Dead, question mark. Let's introduce the characters and do a lineup of what we think about them because everybody wants to know our opinion.
So one thing that's weird about this film, it take 10 years in the future. Take place 10 years in the future. So
Now?
just to go back with a screwed up timeline, with Nightmare 2, they decided to ruin everything by making it take place 5 years after the first film, which would set the second one in 1989. Then we'd have the third one would be 1990, the fourth one 1991, the fifth one 92, or something like that. And then this one, so it would be like 10 years from 92 or 93. If you're going off of that, it'd be like 2003 or 2009. This film taking place.
What are you talking about, Count?
I'm talking about how the films ruined the chronological order, sort of.
Okay.
Because this film was released in 1991. But it takes place 10 years in the future. So 10 years in the future then...
After the fact of 2000...
So it'd be 2001.
Okay.
if it's from 1991.
Okay, well, you know, these days that's movie magic. We set places and eras that haven't even existed yet. So that's fun. You know, Johnny Mnemonic set place in the future, and it was a lie.
No, that's a true story.
Okay.
Okay, so we have everyone's favorite Roseanne Barr, Tom Arnold. I don't know why anybody ever cared about either of them.
Roseanne Barr made a cameo in this movie, in case you didn't know, because she was a big fan of the whole series, and so she begged the producers to get her into the role, and she got it along with her husband at the time. What's his not Tom Arnold? Is it Tom Arnold? Tom Arnold, yes. And they play two people in this town. What's the name of the town again?
Springwood.
In Springwood, which is absolutely abandoned of teenagers and children and anything that's not an adult.
John Doe was the last survivor of Springwood.
Yeah, so John Doe runs into another town. He wakes up. The movie starts with him in a dream with Freddie, and he escapes. And he wakes up with blood on his mouth and with some pretty cool and terrible 90s rock music playing in the background. Does he hear it with us? We don't know. And he goes into town. Billy Zane's sister, Lisa Zane, who is, we find out, spoiler alert, it's Freddie's daughter. But the whole time they're trying to lure you into thinking that it's John Doe, maybe is Freddie's kid, or maybe it's the other girl.
Well, John Doe figures that he is the child of Fred Krueger since Krueger let him live. And so he ended up in this shelter for abused teenagers. And that's where Lisa Zane, who played Maggie Burroughs, she works there trying to
help these children. And so we're introduced with all these other troubled children along with John Doe. We have Carlos, the hearing impaired guy.
What?
Exactly, left. Then we also have, who do we have?
Who? Where?
We have Maggie.
We have Leslie Dean as Tracy Swan.
Okay, we have Tracy. You know, I'm surprised I don't have more of a character description for everybody there. Then we have okay, so John Doe, Carlos, and then we have that one girl, that trouble girl, that tough girl. What's her name? Tracy. Thank you. And she's a no holds barred, doesn't take crap type of character.
She know kung fu of some sort.
Yeah.
She was sexually abused by her creepy father.
She doesn't like to be touched, so she'll have a freak out. And how does she die in the movie? By the way, I forgot.
She survives.
Oh, well, that sucks. And I think that's why we thought maybe she was Freddie's daughter, but she wasn't. And it turns out it's Maggie. Oh, wow. What? The counselor lady.
Wake up, Maggie. I think I've got something to say to you.
Oh, is that the Rod Stewart song you're trying to say?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Okay.
So we got Carlos, who's deaf in the ear, and his mother used to abuse him.
Clean his ear. And it turns out that the guy who played Carlos, he was also in those Back to the Future movies. Part 2, he was in part of Biff's crew in the future.
His gang.
Bang gang.
Aside with Billy Zane, who was part of Biff's crew in many of the films.
There's a link. So this kid's in a movie playing Carlos with Lisa Zane, and then Lisa Zane's brother was in a movie with him too.
It all started to connect together.
So incestual.
Yeah, so the music, as Kat Pyra mentioned, some terrible and wonderful music as part of the soundtrack. This soundtrack and the music stand apart, most significant compared to all of the other films, I believe.
Left.
And then we also have the other teenager, Spencer, who is this stoner kid whose father wanted him to be...
Spencer. That's militant. The one. So Spencer, we know him. If you love Clueless, the movie, you'll recognize him as the other stoner kid. What's his name in the movie in Clueless? Anyone want to help me on that one?
Don't remember.
I loved him. He's in a lot of movies, a lot of 90s movies. And I'm really shocked that I wasn't aware that he was in this one. His name's Brecken Mayer. He was Travis, the one that the curly haired girl had a crush on. He was the skater boy. Brecken Mayer. He was in Rat Race, Road Trip, Clueless, Robot Chicken, doing voices. He's also in King of the Hill as Joseph Gribble. He was young Joseph Gribble. So he's a prominent actor. And I really enjoyed his death. It was...
so pretty much, there's these teenagers in this crappy, abused teens place, and they're having these nightmares. They want to get out of there and run to Hollywood to make a life for themselves out in California. And Lisa Zane's character, Maggie, she want to take John Doe to Springwood to help him cope with his memory loss and try to piece it together, when all John Doe want to do is stay away from there. He knows he's the last of something. He don't realize he's the last child, the last teenager.
Yeah, he just knows he's the last of something.
So they go to Springwood, and they're driving around in the van. The 3 other teenagers have hidden in the back of the van, trying to make their getaway, and they are caught. So
Carlos falls. The first one to nod off is Carlos, and Freddy's fucking with him with the map, and then
the map, he started to unfold it, and they keep unfolding more, and more, and he all lost in it, and they keep asking about the map.
And then it says you're fucked in it.
What does the map say?
It says we're fucked.
Which they are.
They were.
So Maggie she has the teenagers go call, what's his name? Yaphet Kotto, the doc, who's the only one who believed them about their dreams, because he's very interesting in dreams and the healing powers of dreams. He's trying to help them all conquer their demons. So they have to go make a phone call to tell them what's going on, and they end up at this strange carnival going on. That's where we have Tom Arnold and Roseanne Barr. In
the town with no children. What's it called?
Springwood.
I want to say Springfield, but I know that's wrong. Anyway, we have... Okay, so then they find this abandoned home. And we figure out that this home is...
It turns out to be, it breaks away, and of course it is Nancy's house from the original Nightmare on Elm Street. I'm not sure why it had to be disguised as another house, since these teenagers would have no clue whatsoever whose house it was.
And before they left, and the reason they ended up there was because they were in the van trying to get out of Springwood, but couldn't. And it's kind of like an ode to part 4, where they have that dream sequence and they're going in circles and they can't get to help their friend from Freddy. But in this one, they can't leave town.
Exactly. It's very trippy. I remember that's one of the things that first drew me to this film. I saw it playing on television somewhere on the 3rd dimension, and it's like they just keep going in circles, and they're getting angry with each other for not being able to find how to exit. So Tracy tried to take over.
So all the teenagers tried to get behind the wheel to get out of town. They're unsuccessful, and that's how they end up at Nancy's original home. And it's really creepy. You know, Freddy's energy is there, and his vibe, and he knows that they're there, and they're there. Everywhere. And this is when the dreaming sequences begin again. Correct?
Yeah. The beginning opened up with some pretty cool dream nightmare sequences where it's he's like in his bedroom, or he's on the airplane, and it starts crashing. He goes through the window, gets torn out. Then he in his house, and the house is falling from the sky.
Like the Wicked Witch, like...
Yeah, Freddy's the Wicked Witch.
Yeah, this is where we notice that movies really starts getting really cartoonish, Looney Tunes kind of even.
Totally Looney Tunes, Tex Avery style.
Yeah, very campy, of course. We love that shit here. Freddy pushes spikes out onto the road like something, you know, like I said, like a cartoon.
Oh, John Doe's death when he's falling.
Uh-huh.
That's when he find out he is definitely not the child of Freddy Krueger, and
left. And he's left disappointed as well.
You think that I'm your
Daddy.
Yeah. I love how Freddie speaks.
Once I saw that Rachel Talalay had worked with John Waters on a series of films, the whole cartoon, surreal aspect of this film started to make more sense.
Yes, the comedy was just too much, and Rachel Talalay admitted it would never sleep again, that they went overboard with the jokes for sure.
I think it's great. I think that's what sort of give it its own spice to it. But
it's just a contrast to where we started from in Freddy, Nightmare on Elm Street, the original.
It stands out from all the other films, I think. It's very different. It's not very...
It's what your preference is, for sure.
It's not a very satisfying... this film is supposed to be the end of the original series. But it's not very satisfying. It doesn't gel together very cohesively.
Interesting fact, I think we spoke about Peter Jackson was supposed to do an original script for that. He does an original draft of Nightmare on Elm Street's Freddy's Dead with another producer. It was supposed to be a world where all the children are totally they're not even scared of Freddy Krueger. He's a joke to them. In fact, they have sleepovers and hangouts where they take sleeping pills together, they hang out together and they sleep together so they can dream together and beat the shit out of Freddy together. They're gonna beat the crap. So it's a world where the kids are not afraid of Freddy at all, and Freddy's powerless now because no one's scared of him, so he has no power. Get it? Not until a parent of one of the victims that harassed Freddy goes into a coma. He's a cop. One of the parents. He's a cop, and he falls into a nightmare because he's not like the children left, and he starts having horrific nightmares, and that's when Freddy starts to regain his powers again, and from that he's able to one of the kids who's not unthreatened by Freddy decides to go into his dream to protect his father or one of his friend, a family member. And
interesting.
Yeah, left. That's what they were gonna go with, but it didn't happen. They chose not to go with Peter Jackson's draft screenplay.
I prefer the crap we got instead. It's a fun film. It's all the dream sequences are pretty cool. I like the part where what's his name? Spencer sitting there in the house, getting high as a kite, and he starts watching TV, and he starts to see Freddy on TV. That scene with Johnny Depp as Glenn. This is your brain.
Left, and then they have the Iron Butterfly song, "Indagata da Vida."
Yeah, living the vida loca.
No, "Indagata da Vida, honey. Don't you know that I love
you? Unsaturated blood.
Not 45 Grave. It was Iron Butterfly. Concrete and iron are not the same. Okay. So, left. He goes into this other world, into the TV. Hey, I think if we're all stoned for the television set, that sounds like a fun effing experience. Then, wasn't he a video game? Am I mistaken? At some point, he got into a video game?
Yes, that's accurate. Spencer ended up as a video game.
Because as we know, the movie did start off with him playing a ninja handheld video game. And at some point in the intro, they say, he's not a Toyota, they say to the father. And I'm taking notes on this movie, and I'm writing, Spencer, playing ninja. Not a Toyota.
Spencer, not a Toyota.
Yeah. So Freddy has the Power Glove, and by the way, he did not get permission from Nintendo to play the Power Glove.
Great graphics, and they're terrible graphics for 2001.
This was
1991.
Okay.
10 years in the future. I just think it's stupid when movies are like 10 years in the future. It's like, look, you don't know.
We don't know what's going to be.
Yeah. Like, so just make it take 100 years in the future.
Yeah, we don't know. Yeah, the technology in 10 years is going to be 20 years in comparison to where they thought this was going to be.
They dated themselves pretty quickly as soon as Nintendo 64 came out a few years later.
So, okay. We also have, let's see. Oh, okay. The character Carlos, he says, what does he say? He says, "Oh, Carlos, lend me your ear." That was one of my favorite quotes. That's what I was going to cover. Some of my favorite quotes from Freddie. That's pretty sophisticated. I think that's Shakespeare, isn't it? And he's taunting and kind of creeping behind Carlos, and that part was funny and creepy at the same time, because I can't think of how many times I feel like there's been some sort of demon just walking and creeping and playfully smiling behind me, but I can't hear or sense them in some way, but I kind of am because I feel like they're behind me. Anybody? Anyone out there? No?
I hated when that happened.
Yeah.
Far too often. So, yeah, I really enjoyed how they would do the nightmares of the three orphans, and it would show sort of their backstory and their abusive parents. However, it was a bit strange. They sort of introduced that later on towards the end of the film, as opposed to the beginning when you're getting to know the characters.
Left. It's something that you need that backstory prior so that you have that empathy or sympathy for the character when they pass away or something. I don't know. We also find out in this movie that this is where how Freddy becomes so supernaturally powerful with the three demons. Is this true?
Yes, so another cool thing about this film, we start diving more into the backstory on Fred Krueger, where there's these flashback sequences of, so we see him as a child in school, killing a mouse, his classmates teasing him, making fun of him. We see him arguing with his wife at home in Springwood, and his little daughter hearing the arguments.
Yeah, you hear his wife saying, "I won't tell." Basically, she's figured out that he's a fucking killer. Left. And then you have this daughter also finding out that he's strangling out the mother.
He killed her own mother.
And then him asking the daughter not to tell anyone. She says she won't again.
But eventually she do.
And Freddie confronts her about that in the dream.
Oh, and of course we have the flashback of his stepfather, played by Alice Cooper, beating him with a belt, but Freddie has been, as a teenager, hurting himself and growing immune to pain.
Oh yes, he's going along and cutting himself so that he's, what is that, autofixation? What? What's going on over there? Oh.
You're thinking of autoerotic asphyxiation. That's sexual.
Oh, I thought that he was getting off on it too. Was that just me?
He couldn't feel pain anymore. He was conditioning himself to not feel pain. Mm-hmm. And then we have the neighborhood hunting him down, throwing Molotov cocktails through the window as he burned to death. And they have the three demons show up, and he says, "I want it all!" So they run up his butthole. I mean...
that sounds right.
Yeah, so they really go to the backstory. They talk about the demonic entity of Freddie. Some of it was weird, like the school teacher saying 1493, Freddie sail across the sea.
And then 1966 is when they took the child from him, and just like Freddie 101, it was really creepy. Why did he go insane? Is he just like, did he get possessed by Freddie in his nightmares, and now he has to teach Freddie 101?
Yeah, they tried to make the whole town seem like people had lost their minds, as if Springwood was very damaged by the murders.
Springwood, it's a hell of a town. They got no kids. And their system is down.
So the Dream Demons, there's three of them who revive Freddie.
I'm sorry, I just had to get my Springfield reference in there. My Simpsons
can't
reference.
go one episode without.
I had to. Go on. You're welcome.
So another great thing about this film, which I would love to experience, is the end part of it was 3D. You see, she put her 3D glasses on.
The last 10 minutes of the dream were... it was just 10 minutes, by the way.
Well, I want to experience that 10 minutes in 3D.
This shows you how much they're really trying to...
make the film great.
Trying to promote it. They're promoting it with... the movie, 10 minutes in 3D. Nobody knew what part of the film to put the glasses on, so there's complications with that. And then they also had a funeral for Freddie at Hollywood Forever in Hollywood
Ah,
with his striped sweater and fedora in the casket. I wonder if it was by Malaya. Malaya?
Malaya? What are you saying?
Malayla. Mayla.
Oh, Mila Normie.
And then, yeah, so the ending. Oh, by the way, the ending of the movie, there's a fight sequence between Maggie and Freddie. They had no idea. I think we mentioned this before that they were writing the script as they went along, and
They did that for this as well.
yes, and they had no ending for the movie. They honestly had nothing planned. And ironically enough, they had a title Freddy's Dead, but they didn't have how he was going to die in the movie.
Yeah, so they pulled him. So Doc find a way where he can have a dream and he have his temples like hooked up to a dream monitor machine, brainwave monitor, so it'll wake him up so he can escape the dream. So what they do is they hook Maggie up to the machine. She find Freddy. She grab a hold of him and she pull him out of the dream, much like Nancy did in the first film.
Mm-hmm.
So then they realize they can kill him once he's in the real world. It's very similar to the original, but then they have a whole artillery. They have 3D knives popping out at awkward angles.
Mm-hmm.
There's like what do you call it? What's on the poster of the third one? A mace. They have like a mace in this one.
Now that's relevant.
And then it's funny because all of a sudden it's as if Lisa Zane, Maggie can throw. She's a knife thrower all of a sudden at the end.
Yeah, honestly, she becomes a professional knife thrower.
Yeah. And she got the crossbow firing at that Freddy, and she ended up killing him with his own glove, which is pretty great. Take him out with his own weapon.
Divine almost had a role in this movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Really?
In one of John Doe's dream sequences, he's on a plane and talks to a woman sitting next to him, and the woman is just an extra. But originally, it was supposed to be Divine in the seat next to John. But Divine had passed away in 1988 of a heart attack.
So he passed away before the previous film, even. Odd.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunate. We'll just have to CGI him in there, just like we're going to have to CGI Alex Vincent onto Justin Whalen's face in Child's Play 3. So overall, what's one of your favorite kills in the film? Was it Spencer being the video game, going boing, 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 boing,
boingy, boingy. That was fun. I guess that was the one I enjoyed, and the one I didn't enjoy was the scratches.
Oh, on the chalkboard.
Left.
My favorite.
That was
Such
excruciatingly wonderful.
Music to my ears.
I enjoyed his quotes where it was now be a good little doggy and fetch. I enjoyed no screaming while the bus is in motion. These are quotes of Freddy's, by the way, that I enjoyed. And what else?
Yeah, the visuals were pretty interesting, pretty fun. I'm not sure what else to say about the film other than it's sort of out of nowhere that he has a daughter all of a sudden, but it's still a great, interesting backstory. We always like to see those flashbacks to his origins and such disaster.
Rachel Talalay used some of John Waters' crew for the Freddy's Dead movie,
which explained why the film feel like it was made by people on copious amounts of drugs.
The city also, for another publicity gimmick, besides the funeral for Freddy, they also had Los Angeles had declared September 12th, 1991, the day before the release of Freddy's Dead, to be Freddy Krueger Day.
And a bunch of people threw hissy fits because they suck. They couldn't deal with horror films and violence, even though it's fictional, and you had cops running around a year later, insinuating riots.
I like the way the ending was, where the song was about dreams and whatnot. It went along with the ending.
Oh, the Iggy Pop song, yeah. It's a good one.
That's why I liked it. It was Iggy Pop.
Very good. 1994's Wes Craven's A New Nightmare.
Featuring the original cast as themselves.
Except for Johnny Depp, which I guess Wes Craven was too
Shy.
timid or shy to ask Johnny Depp and his rising fame, which sound
To come back.
ridiculous.
Yeah, because there was the funeral scene and he wanted the original cast of Nightmare on Elm Street to appear in
In the funeral scene, as it were, in the original.
Left.
And Depp said he would have been glad to not reprise his role as Glenn necessary,
But to be featured in that scene.
as himself.
Left. And so we have a very meta film where Wes Craven approaches the whole feel of the actors playing themselves and acknowledging that it's a movie. It's very meta.
His scripts start to take on a form of reality where he have nightmares, and the nightmares write themselves.
Yes, he's being tortured by his nightmares of Freddy Krueger, and he's writing the script. Originally, in the draft, Craven had written it so that what's that character's name from The Hills? Was it
John Barrymore.
No. Tortured and just absolutely distraught by Freddy Krueger, and he's trying to escape him with the script in his hands, and he doesn't want to go to sleep, so he cut off his eyelids. That was his draft.
Ah, lovely.
Yeah.
And this concept, Wes Craven originally wanted for the third installment of the series. However, it was not time.
A lot of things were portrayed and mirrored from real life into the film. For instance, Langenkamp.
Her acting career, going into television. They used a fictional husband, though. That wasn't... She never had a husband who died in the series.
But she did have a husband who was in special effects, and they own a company. And her husband did won awards for the Nutty Professor and what was it, Man in Black?
Hercules.
Yeah, he got Best Makeup Oscar for 1996 Nutty Professor. And what was his name? Anderson. Langkamp's real husband is David Leroy Anderson, and they run the AFX studio together. But they didn't use him in the film. They got that actor.
Someone who could act, perhaps.
Chase Porter.
And her son in the film.
Oh, yes, Miko. So we have Miko Hughes, who plays Dylan in Wes Craven, right? This movie.
Also from Pet Sematary as Gage.
Pet Sematary, and you might also recognize him in Kindergarten Cop of Boys Have Penises, Girls Have Vaginas. That team. Also, he's in the annoying little boy from Full House. I think they have little pinching war. Both little Michelle Tanner and this Miko Hughes character. I personally couldn't get over, because I was always introduced to this little child actor as the annoying boy from Full House. So the whole time I'm thinking, this boy is annoying. But he really had some good acting chops, and a lot of it was brought on by the father and how he got the young boy to cry, which was telling him that his mother died, and then telling before the scene that he had to cry in, and then after the scene was over, the father said, "Oh, just kidding, she's alive, here's a Happy Meal." Torture.
All the wonderful things child actors go through. And he could do that deep, scary voice. He's good at doing weird, threatening voices, being a very eerie child. Kind of irritating sometimes.
It was
also, I heard from one of my ex-wives that he's on Bumble, ladies.
Ex-wives. He's on Bumble. During the film, when that scene where Dylan's on top of that playground, at the peak of that playground rocket on the set, right before he falls down. And then the man asks, "Are you okay?" Instead of asking, if Langenkamp is okay after catching the little boy off of the playground and falling down.
Dylan trying to reach God. How far are you in the script? As far as Dylan trying to reach God.
Well, the Miko kid, his family had acres of land, so in real life he got to keep that playground that they were going to destroy after they filmed it.
Oh, it was filmed on his family's property.
No, they built that set for the scene.
Oh, and then they moved it to the acres of land.
Yes, because they were going to throw it away.
And I hate when they throw away perfectly good playground.
Exactly. So he got to keep it. Pretty cool. In the 7th installment, meta horror film that was filmed 3 years later after Freddy's dead, it was completely redesigned as for Freddy's new look.
Oh, his look is my favorite look in all of them. Probably one of my favorite Freddy's, where he more demonic looking. You see his flesh not so melted, more just pieces of it ripped out. His eyes are more demonic. You have the long trench coat, his fedora's not all ripped up.
Knee-high combat boots.
Almost like pleather shiny pants. And his...
It's not what the fans were used to.
His sweater come up higher like turtleneck.
Left.
And his glove is almost as if it touched
the blades are coming from his knuckles.
His fingers,
Very Wolverine style.
Yeah, you have his bones sticking out, attached with metal.
I enjoyed that very much because it's more the dream-like.
Ever play Skin the Cat? Ooh. Yeah, this is after the first film, this is totally my favorite. It's my second favorite in the entire franchise.
That's actually, it's funny you should say that because Langenkamp and Robert Englund both said the exact same thing, that this is their favorite installment of the whole Freddy franchise. Englund says it's his favorite because every time he watches it, he sees something new.
Ah.
We also have in real life, they made a little comment, Craven to Langenkamp about having a stalker in the movie. In real life, Craven asked Langenkamp if he could mention that in the movie because she did have a real life stalker.
As many horror actresses and final girls do.
But this one was not brought on by horror. It was brought on because she was in a TV show in 1988.
Just the 10 of us.
Yes, thank you.
Building nightmares in the sky.
He was upset about the show being on for only one season and being cancelled. So she did have to, Langenkamp moved to London for about 5 months just to escape her stalker.
Ah, scary. At least she got away. No stalking. If you're out there and you're thinking about stalking us or anyone else, don't do it. Not wise. Especially when I tear out your eyes and eat them. You know who one of my favorite characters in this film is? Rex.
Rex?
Rex.
Rex, right.
The dinosaur stuffed toy who saved Gage. I mean,
Miko.
Danny. I mean, Dylan from Freddy. He even, once you get the claw marks ripped open on the side.
That made it really cool.
And then they sew him back up and he's sort of like green and red.
His wound scars.
They emulate Freddy's sweater in a way.
And Wes Craven got to keep one of the Rexes for himself.
Oh, did he? I would hope so. It's his film.
They also had, what did I have here? Let's see. So it says they went with a somewhat abstract narrative approach to Nightmares. Wes Craven wanted the film to offer up a defense of his life's work in an abstract kind of way.
I thought it got too cartoony for a long time, and it totally got very comedic, and they even talk about that in the film, how he just becomes a joke. He's no longer scary, there's no more films, so the demon, the entity that possesses the form of Fred Krueger start to reappear and become a threat again, and they need to put this demon entity back into its place to keep them safe. In order to do that, they need to essentially make another film, and Heather need to play Nancy again, and of course you have John Saxon in there as well, playing himself, as well as towards the end of the film, he pretty much become her father again.
Yeah, that was interesting.
I love that scene there. The whole film is so fantastic.
I really appreciate the death where that the babysitter, who also, by the way, the babysitter of little Dylan was offered to Drew Barrymore, who later made a cameo in Scream.
In Scream, which is a very similar concept to this, being a meta-film, horror, real life.
They mentioned her being a babysitter in that one as well. And then there was also offered to, who else? Winona Ryder. Lovely Winona.
See, that wasn't part of it. They could have got Winona.
This was also, they couldn't do the roles because they had prior commitments. In 1994, Ryder was making Reality Bites and Little Women, and Barrymore appeared in Bad Girls and Inside the Gold Mine. So this is why.
Who was the actress they used? She was great.
She was,
She was a likable character, and it was. We didn't want to see her die.
I only seen her in Beverly Hills 90210, where she was dating Steve Sanders and accused him of date raping her when they were all going to college.
Oh, I remember that.
That was her. She had short blonde hair. That's all. That's the only girl. I am sure she was probably in some, made-for-TV movies or something.
Or some Planet 9 film.
You know what I found interesting too? The first death, of course, was Landon Camp's husband. Did I say her name right? Landon Camp? Langenkamp.
Unless you count the two other set guys who died in the dream, who are revealed much later in the film.
When Freddy's glove or blade started appearing at the bottom of his car seat because he starts nodding off in the road, you remember he was singing a little song. What was it called?
Oh, isn't he singing a? What was he singing?
R.E.M. Rapid eye movement. You get it now?
Clever. Very clever.
As soon as I read that, I was thinking, oh, duh, of course. That's association. Rapid eye movement, REM. That's me in the corner. He's singing that song.
Losing his religion.
He's associating that this song suggests that he is absolutely asleep, which is why we see Freddy's claws. Lovely. Beautifully done.
Trying to stay awake. Here, have some catnip in your
That's a nice. I've seen people handle catnip with chopsticks before.
These are tweezers.
Those are tweezers. They're like the white man's chopsticks.
So another thing that was interesting, I thought, was the earthquakes. California always had the earthquakes, but it just so happened to coincide with
the production. When they were filming is when the earthquakes were going on. And
so they used real footage of the earthquake damage in the film.
And there was, unfortunately, it did kill up to 57 people. So
it just helped with the meta of the film in the real life. You have these dangerous earthquakes in the film.
It was a Northridge earthquake.
And these were real threats, real things happening at the time.
Left, meta.
Yeah. We get to see Robert Englund in there, of course, playing himself in Fred Krueger.
That's something that I thought when he mentioned it was his favorite film, because I just think he liked his original face, his normal airtime.
Yeah, it's cool. You get to see his real face, him playing himself as an actor playing the character Fred Krueger, and then of course him playing the authentic demonic version of Freddy Krueger.
I also realized that this is the second film that Craven directed in the whole Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, which was the first one and this one, the New Nightmare. Of course, this wasn't the most successful franchise of the whole.
Or yeah, they said this film performed the worst out of all of them, although it's much better than all of them.
It only made $20 million worldwide. Oh, boo-hoo, $20 million. Okay. New Nightmare proved to be the lowest earning one.
Once you split that up amongst, thousands of people or hundreds, I'm not sure how many people made it. It's still more a success than any film we have ever appeared or been part of it to date.
So another fun thing they also incorporated again with Freddy Krueger's Freddy Krueger attacking Langenkamp in the first one with the tongue on the phone.
Oh, they bring the tongue back. So she thinks she had the stalker, but it's Fred Krueger working his way into reality through the phone. We get the tongue licking again.
Freddy wraps his tongue around. So Langenkamp hated these tongue scenes, by the way.
Which is why they put 2 more of them in this film with her.
They said that, she says, there are several scenes in New Nightmare where Freddy wraps his tongue around my head. Heather said, I just really didn't like that either because I felt Nancy was succumbing to sexual, not violence. I mean, it's not violent, but it was just yucky. That's what she said. She also said, I really believe that the only day that I might have rolled my eyes a little bit was with the tongue coming out of the telephone. Langenkamp said. I was just like, this is not going to work. I'm like, oh God, this is so dumb looking. I just thought, this is obscene. That was my best Langenkamp I could give you because she kept saying the word like. She said she never liked it. Like, you know.
She never licked it. She refused. Never mind. She refused oral ever since they filmed it. And then another cool aspect was they had Dylan sleepwalking around, Fred Krueger trying to possess him, talk through him.
Watching Nightmare unknowingly.
A sort of almost a reference in Dream Child, how he's trying to possess a child.
I loved when little Dylan was giving, hinting to his mother in the beginning about Hansel and Gretel and the breadcrumbs and then the sleeping pills and just having a trail into a tent-like fort, which, children are very much into forts. And the mother finding him down in that little...
Oh, yeah, leaving the trail of breadcrumbs from the old witch.
All very much fun.
I like how they compared some of Freddy Krueger's makeup to, like, an old witch. And you have the reference of him being, like, the old witch in Hansel and Gretel.
I forgot about that.
Same thing as in Freddy's Dead. You see him as the Wicked Witch outside of the house on the broomstick during the tornado.
Ooh,
and then you have
witchy Freddy.
So they start, these strange things are happening to Heather. She don't want to believe what's happening. She don't want to sound crazy. She questioned her mental health.
No, it was the doctor that questioned her mental health as well, right?
Yes, but first she says to John Saxton in the park about her family having a history of being institutionalized. Oh. And she's concerned about that. And
forgot about that.
I forgot what else I was going to say. Dylan sleepwalking, that. But yes, the nurse or the doctor at the hospital's total bitch character you hate because she tried. We could just put Dylan in foster care.
Yeah,
that's like holding a gun to a mother.
Nobody threatens someone so quickly and judgmental. I mean, come on. They're not going to get social services in there like that. It's such a process.
Yeah, they're just building the intensity of the threat of what's happening here, which works well.
The intensity.
And then you have Heather calling. She talked to Robert Englund on the phone, and he's sort of going off into his own demented characterness because, he is partially Fred Krueger. He's what gave this demon its form. And... He's doing the painting. I guess he's a painter in real life.
I think this is also why Robert Englund appreciated this original FaceTime and as his favorite movie. He just,
He got to show off his art.
He got to show those off stuff. And we never discuss how, high-pitched Robert Englund's face is. It's so...
His voice?
Yeah,
he do not sound like Fred Krueger. They clearly are using some effects on his voice.
Quick, do an effect on me.
Robert Englund, that's not your real voice, bitch.
Wow, you sound terrifying.
Thank you. Yes, I've been practicing. I don't have any more interesting facts except for what I've thought about the movie, and I think I expressed my...
Well, that's why we're here.
Favorite parts. I hope I was informative, or the both of us were informative. I really hope we put in clips of Miko Hughes when he was in Full House.
I really like the hellish, like when she go for the sleeping pills to find the Dylan and she starts sliding under the bed sheets.
I just mentioned that.
But yes, that she's going through it, it turned into a sewer and she come out of his mouth.
That was cool. Yeah, big Freddy fountain in the depths.
And I noticed there was a pterodactyl flying through the
I
air.
didn't see the pterodactyl.
It's very small. I assume it's a pterodactyl, some sort of winged dinosaur. And Dylan is very into dinosaurs, so I'm assuming it is a dinosaur in there.
Okay. Sound cool to me.
And it's sort of that old, I don't know what you call it, Greece or Greek looking.
Gothic looking? What?
The architecture. You made a comment about it when we were watching it the other night.
Hmm.
I'm trying to find out if Robert Englund is actually a painter or not.
Oh, okay. Well,
He sort of disappeared on the film after that scene with him on the phone. You
Right.
can kind of tell he's going off into his own sort of. He's like tapping into the evil. It's sort of eerie. The first few times I watched the film, I was like, it's him. He's Freddie, even for real. There's something going on there.
that's what I thought too. Maybe they wanted to get us to have that feel or that sense of it to throw us off a bit, because it is supposed to be a horror movie and there's supposed to be confusion in like who the killer is or where it's coming from. Just I don't know. I think it's just a very innovative, very forward way of approaching a movie. It wasn't appreciated at the time, but later it became a thing, like with, Scream. Of course, Wes Craven wrote that, but I Know What You Did Last Summer. A bunch of horror flicks were addressing themselves as horror movies and making fun of themselves and trying to be meta in the way that Craven was. And, yeah, very forward.
I found it interesting at the Horror Hound panel in Cincinnati. Robert Englund said his real nightmare he have is before any sort of job or film or event, no matter what, he have a fear that he's trying to look at his script and he can't find it to start off the one line to get him going, and it's a reoccurring nightmare he have. Oh, what else is great about the film? His old death scene, the way they kill him, he end up inside of the oven, in the boiler, the furnace, being burned alive, much as he was in the original story. So that was great. In the way Dylan stabbed Fred Krueger's tongue after it wrapped around Nancy, it splits off sort of like a snake tongue or Gene Simmons. And I just really love the whole, after they run across the freeway with the cutting edge effects of a projector screen and...
I found it. I found what you're looking for. Somebody actually wrote, probably a dumb question, but does Robert Englund really paint pictures for a hobby, or was that simply made up for the film? According to his wife, the painting was made specifically for the movie. Robert doesn't paint at all.
Aha, so the whole film is a lie when we believe it to be true.
He said he's a surfer dude. He wanted to be polishing his boards for that scene. I don't know if that's true.
Yeah, he should have been doing that. Seeing Freddy Krueger appear in the waves.
Oh, this is great. Okay.
What's your favorite part of the film or favorite kill?
I'm only liking this because it frustrated me so much, but when Dylan's babysitter is being, crushed on the floor, dragged to the walls, up on the ceiling, and just, yeah.
Yeah, he's watching it all happen after the nurses give him the shot.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he's afraid out of his mind, and everyone else standing there watching it happen.
That shit made me frustrated.
No one would know what to do. They don't see Freddy. They just see her moving.
I mean...
Their minds are blown.
Get a broom and try to knock her down.
Do something, yeah.
Something. Scream. Tell an adult, a friend, a neighbor.
That was definitely the best kill of the film, I think. It really comes exploding out that, I was going to say Nancy, but Heather shows that she's not crazy. Everyone's witnessing this. The nurses get what they deserve. She, elbows one, trying to find her son and see the babysitter there. And then they run across the highway. She call John Saxon up on the phone, and I really enjoy how he starts off as himself and sort of transitions into him being the character before she goes into the nightmare realm where they defeat Krueger.
Okay, so I think this was done by Robert Englund. This is his drawing of Freddy Krueger.
Yeah, well, He's got a style.
I've
about
never
it.
seen a chin on him like that. Is he supposed to be like Super Freddy or something? Or what is that? I'm
Who
going to
knows?
screenshot that and send it so you can post it on this.
High
For
the resolution for the
listeners.
video version.
For our listeners / viewers.
So that's Wes Craven's A New Nightmare. My second favorite in the entire franchise series.
All very good. And thank you for listening.
Meow, 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 meow. We are at 2003's Freddy vs. Jason.
Here on Castle Cat Horror.
Potcat. Meow. Blah.
Okay.
I want to fuck your blood. So
You're
meow.
too late.
Freddy vs. Jason. It was good. I liked it. Okay, next film.
Right.
My favorite part was the part where they have in the movie where he was the one character and I'm not sure my favorite part.
My favorite part was the art.
My favorite part were all the downward shots of Monica's breasts in the face.
Wait, are we talking about... Oh, yeah, that's left. Okay. That was my least favorite part.
She was my favorite part. Freddy Krueger, his face...
Her breasts were his favorite part.
Her breasts were the best part in the film. No, there was cool stuff about the film, like, you know...
The part in her tits.
The part that separates
Some call it cleavage.
the left from the right. Well, that's...
I'm not even ready because we're just talking about
clearly-
her tits.
Well, you could tell by the 2000s they were casting the... You know, the characters who are going to all get slaughtered for the most part by their breast sizes.
Left. It's
And their muscle density.
A good example is Jamie Lee Curtis, her own mother, who did the...
No, the 2000s.
She was in 2000s. She's still old with big tits.
It's true.
Okay.
And speaking of Jamie Lee Curtis, the character in the film's name was Laurie, who I assume this was a reference towards the Halloween
That's
films.
what I had just left. It was just too coincidental. What's the character's name? Monica Keena is the girl
Is the actress.
is the actress's name that plays Laurie.
Who's actually a friend of a friend.
Oh, for a count. Who's carefully holding a strand of hair that looks like a web. A spider
Hairball.
web.
So they used 300 gallons of blood in this film.
Oh, you just had to get that fact in there.
300!
Okay. Well, Monica Keena admitted that in Never Sleep Again, a documentary, that she was so scared of Freddy Krueger in real life that it affected her physical appearance because she couldn't sleep. She was so scared and distraught by the movie when she was growing up. So even her teachers had to ask her parents, like, hey, what's going on with your daughter? She's acting a little freaking weird here.
She's perfect for the role, and she's already in character long before she got the part.
They thought she was being abused in some way. Eventually, Keena's mom had to show a picture of Freddy Krueger and...
Robert Englund.
Exactly. This is what my mother did when I was a kid.
And when she saw him without the makeup, she screamed even louder.
So that's reassuring. That's an important
So
part.
one thing that bothered me about the film was Betsy Palmer did not reprise her role as Pamela Voorhees. They had someone else play her.
Left the mother of Jason. Oh yes, Jason.
She said that the role was too small for her, and she betrayed all of her fans.
There are no small roles, only small actors.
Yeah, Johnny Depp would have done it.
Exactly, and he said that he would have done that role. So we have in this movie we have the Laurie, her boyfriend, who was actually
Her boyfriend, who, along with the other character, who we should have know what his name is, are locked away in the same mental hospital from the third film, which West Wind.
And he is John Ritter's son.
Oh, that's John Ritter's son?
Remember I told you he looked just like John Ritter? I
You
think
did.
that's his son. That's his John Ritter from Three's Company, if you're not savvy, or 10 Rules or something about dating my daughter, I think was another show he was on in the 2000s. Yeah, he was definitely one of the actors.
And so they originally tried to make this film, or they wanted to, in 1987, but it did not work out between Paramount Pictures. And then we got one of my favorite Friday the 13th films, which is New Blood, the one with the woman with the telekinesis. And then also you see at the end of Friday the 13th, Part 9, Jason Goes to Hell. You see his mask laying in the dirt, and Freddy Krueger glove come out of the dirt and grab his mask and pull him down to
I
hell.
heard that.
Which then they went to Jason X instead.
Okay.
The characters.
So also, I forgot to mention about the character that Laurie's boyfriend was not originally supposed to be played by Ritter's son.
Ritter Jr.
Ritter Jr. We're not going to call him Brad Renfro. If you heard of Brad Renfro before,
I've heard of Renfield.
he's from Kids. That movie Kids. Also another movie called Bully. He was in Ghost World. He was the friend that worked in the convenience store. He was also an apt pupil, the client in Sleepers, and lesser known Tom and Buck. Have you ever heard of Tom and Buck? Yeah.
No, and I don't give a flying truck either.
Oh, okay. Well, he was supposed
He was
to
a
be casted.
creepster kid in the Kids
left, and so they ended up going with a different character. When Freddy vs. Jason was still in the casting stage, Brad Renfro had been cast, and Will Rowlands, who the boyfriend, was sent away and locked up in a mental institution. Jason Ritter got the role in the end, but only after New Line Cinema fired Renfro from the project. They said it was creative differences, but it was really his addiction, which was his death and demise in the end. Rest in peace.
What, addicted to heroin?
Well, whatever his thing was, I didn't do that much research. What am I, his biographer?
Also, this film was directed by Ronnie Yu, who directed The Bride of Chucky.
Yul, a couple of information about him. Let's see.
And why are you looking that up? Corey Feldman was slated to make a cameo appearance as Tommy Jarvis, which would have been great to see him reprising that role as an adult. However, it never made it into the script.
Okay. Well, okay. I can't find the information I'm looking for right now, even though I had it color coordinated and everything. But one thing I was wondering was what was up at the end. Okay, so it's Freddy versus Jason.
Yes, Fred Krueger.
Jason versus Freddy.
So the premise is Freddy Krueger want to live again. He want to become alive, and in order to do that, he needs to strike the fear into teenagers or people's hearts and minds. So he needs
that power of attention.
Yeah. So he sends Jason. He gets Jason to come back from the dead, like posing as his mother, Pamela Voorhees, and tell him to go kill on Elm Street in Springwood, where Nancy grew up in the house where he met his demise originally. So, meow that Jason start attacking and hacking up people to little bits and pieces. Rumors start flooding around about Freddy Krueger, because everyone in Springwood knows about Freddy Krueger. So much to the point where anyone who has encountered him, they lock them away in the asylum and keep them medicated so that they cannot dream on the same drug that Nancy was taking and introduced in the third Nightmare on Elm Street. So,
okay. So what I'm wondering here is
hypnosil is what it's called.
Why? Okay.
Hypnosil.
So when Freddy gets into Jason's dreams, he finds what his fear is, which is water.
Drowning.
Well, there's a bunch of water falling on him, and Jason gets into fetal position and turns into young Jason, and he starts freaking the fuck out, and Freddy gets his knife and sticks it in his head and starts reading his like brain and shit, and
Just
really
like
gets in
RoboCop.
there. Yeah, he really gets in there, and you find that this is a way for Freddy to defeat Jason. Okay,
And also,
he's the Lakeshore Killer, Jason. What? How
Lakeshore
is,
Killer.
What is it? What is he? What the
You're
fuck
think-
is he?
The Lakeshore Strangler.
There you go,
Charles
Strangler.
Lee.
What is he? The Lakeshore something, right? Like, what is he known
He's
for?
Jason Voorhees.
Jason Voorhees, like
The
that's,
entity of himself,
that's
killing
his thing.
teenagers
That's by
at
the lake,
Crystal Lake.
by Crystal Lake. He's a Crystal Lake killer. Okay, so
Why is his weakness water if he survived drowning and lived around the
he's-
lake his entire life, slaughtering people beyond the death?
left?
Because it's a movie.
Oh God.
I heard though for young Jason that they got Ari Lieben, the original Jason Voorhees, and they completely shaved him and threw him into fetal position as a 30-something-year-old man.
Mm.
And by this I mean I'm completely fabricating that.
What? I wasn't even paying attention, so I have no idea what you just said.
I'm sure there's a few. Actually, rewatching the film, which we haven't seen since last year, it's better than you would think. Freddy vs. Jason just sounds like it's going to be an idiotic blockbuster, but there's actually pretty good story, and characters are pretty good and developed, I thought.
Jason also swam to New York City. Remember when we saw wasn't he in the water in New York City?
Yeah, he fell out of the boat.
How is he vulnerable to water with Freddy Krueger?
Because he's too heavy to swim, because he put on a few extra pounds when he became Kane Hodder.
Thank you. Fill in the nonsense count.
It's because Kane Hodder started to play Jason, and he wear that very heavy psychopathic records necklace, being a juggalo. He drink so much Fago. What do you think is in those muscles? That's all Fago. And it caused him to sink in the lake, meow. Also, I heard they did not film this movie in the United States, but they had to look for a house that looked pretty much exactly like Nancy's house.
Interesting. So
Genesee.
They had over a dozen writers write scripts and, drafts the scripts for the film before they finally...
But mine was the best.
And they had some crazy ideas, and the script focused on a lot of different concepts, like a cult that called themselves Fred Heads. And while others showed authorities catching Jason and sending him to trial, they were also boxing and
Jason to trial?
Yeah, they were
That would have
having
been
boxing and
hilarious.
hockey matches between Freddy and Jason. And then the scenario where Freddy assaulted Jason's mother. And then there was even one idea to have Freddy pee into the Holy Grail. But it's unknown to where that plot was going to go.
You know what my favorite part actually of the film is? When Jason Voorhees catch on fire at the rave in the cornfield, and he walk through the cornfield on fire, come on out, and he just start hacking people to death. That scene is... I was crying tears of beauty. It was such a beautiful shot. It was very joyful.
Well done. Jason Voorhees of the years. Well, okay, so we had... you guys were all used to Hodder playing Jason left.
Kane Hodder.
Mm-hmm. And I guess we really thought that he had the role.
Wait, did he not?
He did not play. He did not play Jason.
Oh.
When Ronnie Yu stepped up, when Ronnie Yu became the director,
he said no.
Yeah, he had the feeling that they were going to cast someone else. So that's why he didn't.
Oh, this sound familiar, meow, from that Camp Crystal Lake, the Return to Camp Crystal Lake documentary. I remember him talking about that, meow.
Left. Yes, he was the first one. He was in the first one, and then the New Blood. He was in New Blood, and then Jason Takes Manhattan. Jason Goes to Hell. Jason X, but not in Freddy versus Jason. It was Ken Kersinger, 6'2".
Never heard of it.
I think so.
Except for the credits when it came out in 2003.
He was 6'5". Hodder was 6'2", and Jason was...
He's 6'5", I'm 5'6", plus a few inches.
These are not 5'6", we're 5'9". Okay, so let's see what else we have here. Okay, one of my least favorite characters was that Kia girl that woman, the
From Destiny's Child.
the not Beyonce lady. She's
Kelly Rowland.
Kelly Rowland. She's playing Miss Kia Watterson, local teenager, friends with Laurie. She was the last victim to die in the movie.
You didn't like her red highlights?
I hated it.
But it so mattered.
And I really
just like the frosted tips on the cap.
I really didn't like her last lines that she was delivering about like how Freddy Krueger looks like a faggot because he's wearing a Christmas tree looking.
Oh, she trying to bring him down and she say homophobic things and then Jason behind her and just kill her anyway.
Left.
Yeah, way to kill your career. And yeah, that they never would have put that in today. They would not have her. Yeah. Like, trying to belittle him.
So everyone was really surprised that the line was kept in the film, especially since it was not in the script in the first place. Originally, Kia was going to be talking to Jason and use Nancy's trick of turning her back on the villain before Freddy said, "Wrong one, bitch," and killed her.
You look like a hetero.
Left. Yeah. And one of my favorite lines of hers in the movie Kia, Kelly Rowland, was, "Oh God, y'all two killers, we're not safe awake or asleep."
That would be terrifying, yes.
Yeah, with Freddy and Jason out roaming around, that's pretty fucking scary. Let's see. We didn't really fall in love with the characters. Kia, I was anticipating her death. The other guy that was sent to the asylum,
the Weston Hills Psychiatric Hospital.
They're all right. I was excited about their fight. The background story was decent. No, the fight was alright.
The fight was great. You totally, Freddy definitely had way more kills, you could tell, throughout the film. And I see they used more
kills. He only had one kill in the whole film, and Jason had 19 kills, 20 kills in the whole movie.
That's what I meant. I say Freddy had more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I meant the Jason. Yeah, Freddy in the dream, he didn't kill. I don't think he killed anybody in the dreams, did he? Who did he even kill?
Who did he kill?
But you could tell that if you look at the Friday the 13th films versus the Nightmare on Elm Street films, I love both, and I've typically leaned towards the Friday the 13th ones as being my favorite, but Nightmare has much more developed characters in intricate plot lines and creativity, so you could tell they had to run with that. Mm-hmm. Catpira, you pointed out, Robert Englund really carried a lot of the film with his facial expressions, especially when he battling Jason.
The writers had an idea pitched about an alternate ending with Freddy and Jason winding up in hell. Did you hear about that one?
No, isn't that where they started off together?
Well, chains would have then gone through their bodies, and Pinhead would have emerged saying, "Now, gentlemen, what seems to be the problem?" What seems to be, unfortunately...
Freddy versus Jason versus Pinhead, the Cenobites.
Yeah, New Line Cinema didn't own the character, so they weren't able to do that.
And there's supposed to be Ash Williams in there as well as a sequel.
Yeah, there's a whole...
which you see in the comic books at the comic book shop.
Section about this in here. Fans have been asking to see Freddy versus Jason and Ash versus Ash. The storyline may have been in comic books, but the characters have not crossed over in movies yet. In Never Sleep Again, the documentary was revealed that Sam Raimi even pitched some ideas. Let's see.
I'd love to hear what he had in mind.
In this film, Ash would have defeated both Freddy and Jason.
Of course, because he's the ass kicker of all evil.
And it would have prevented each film series from getting a more unneeded sequel. A few years ago, Adam Marcus, the director of Jason Goes to Hell, said that he considered Jason to be a deadite, which would have been an interesting situation.
He's pretty much a deadite, sort of. Well, they seem a little bit more lively with their demonic forces. Jason sort of had that silent corpse personality of an invert.
Well, they said Freddy Krueger is a deadite who came to life after reading the Necronomicon. ex Mortis in the Evil Dead. Ultimately, this theory is entirely false, based on the Evil Dead appearance in A Nightmare on Elm Street. Ash ended up leading his ragtag band of teenagers into a fight against Freddy and Jason, where most of his employees perished. The final showstopper battle would have been where Freddy unleashed all of Jason's former victims, now Deadites, and turned his cabin into the iconic house at 1428 Elm.
They also had many references to the other films in this one. Like, dark meat, like fresh meat from the third one?
Yeah, he had a lot of good. Yeah, I already said my favorite quote. It was definitely that. That was Kia. I didn't mention Freddy's quote. And usually I'm writing them down as the movie's going, but I didn't do it this time.
It was a pretty good flick considering that you wouldn't expect it to be very good. I like the whole everyone locked up inside the hospital who's dreaming of him and stuff. But
so it's Freddy. It's called Freddy versus Jason. Who do you think won, Freddy or Jason?
Clearly, Jason Voorhees won. He's carrying Fred Krueger's head at the end.
But Freddy winks.
Well, he's
leading us to believe that perhaps he has something up his no longer
up his sleeve that was ripped off of him and stabbed him to the heart. No. He winked, and you can't. Neither of them ever truly die. Although this was the last time we really saw them, minus the terrible remakes, which were getting to meow.
Well, the reason they left it with a questionable ending, they actually contracted the actors, the main characters themselves. Oh no, they
wanted it to be sort of ambiguous, and they didn't want people.
Oh no, I'm completely wrong. I'm thinking of the next one we're going to cover.
Okay, let's cover that meow. 2010's
Nightmare on Elm Street.
It took me years to get to actually watching this film after it came out because, it's a remake.
Took me 11 years to find out that there was even a remake, believe it or not. And here he is coming back from the dead. 8 life check. We have Rooney Mara played the character of Nancy Holbrook.
Everyone's favorite. Yeah, she sucked. Well, she did suck.
She was not in favor of playing this role, by the way.
Really?
Yeah.
In the show.
Exactly. Rooney Mara played Nancy Holbrook. Very different. We didn't like her.
We get the Jackie
Mara
Earl
hated the role as well. She's unlike the original Heather Langenkamp. Mara went as far as to say, quote, "I didn't want to act anymore. I was like, this isn't what I signed up for. If this is what my opportunities are, I'm gonna be like, then I'm not that interested in acting." What a dumb bitch. Mara also said that she didn't really want the role when she auditioned, but she knew afterwards that after she had auditioned that she had got the part.
So, to all of you aspiring actors and actresses out there, you should go murder this actress. And so Jackie Earl Haley, who we knew as Rorschach from The Watchmen, and he also was in some baseball bear movie from the 70s or the 80s. Bad News Bears.
Left. I have a couple of things here. I think.
And some other film where he also played a child molester of a sort, so sort of, that prepare them for the role.
That's the man that played Freddy Krueger, left.
Yes.
He was auditioning. Who was it? Bayer. Okay, so we have Transformers director Michael Bay, who's producing this movie.
I hate Michael Bay. Seriously, he ruined everything. I'm sure everything that sucked about this movie sucked because of Michael Bay. The same way everything that sucked about Friday the 13th remake was Michael Bay. Just for the same reason Transformers sucked and the Ninja Turtles he did all sucked. It's because Michael Bay needs to die.
He's over the top. He's notorious for discovering hot chicks like Megan Fox. And he didn't discover her. She was doing Disney stuff in with Lindsay Lohan back in the early 2000s.
He brings absolutely nothing to any and every table he sit at.
Well, would you
He's
have
a
liked
snob.
this movie to have been in 3D?
Okay, you got me there.
Okay,
I
he
would.
stopped the other New Line Cinema, or not Warner Brothers, because Warner Brothers bought New Line Cinemas, Freddy Nightmare on Elm Street, I believe, right? Is this, or am I thinking
New Line Cinema.
Okay,
was
but it was
Nightmare.
Warner Brothers. He convinced them to not go with the 3D idea.
Oh, he convinced them not to.
Yes.
Even more reason for me to hate him. Okay.
So, okay.
This is Count Cat telling you, Michael Bay, I shall be coming for you, so your days are numbered.
So we have the film recast Freddy Krueger with Jackie Earl Haley, who starred alongside Rooney Mara, Kyle Gallner, and Katie Cassidy. When Haley was considered for the role, he had been nominated for an Academy Award in Watchmen and Rorschach with a Rorschach test. Rorschach test. Yes, it was Warner Brothers, and they had raised interest in Haley because he was doing a screen test for the movie Watchmen, and when what's his name, your favorite director, saw that, he says he knew he wanted this man to audition and be the role for Freddy. Yeah.
Interesting. Very interesting. I kind of like him, honestly.
The
Jackie Earl.
Haley.
Jackie Earl Grady, Haley, Joel Osment.
I really appreciated that they made his face look like a real burn victim's face.
/ extraterrestrial gray alien.
Yeah, left. If you've ever seen those, talk shows or midnight or evening news specials.
If you've ever seen the natural born victim.
Yes, exactly. Then you know what we're talking about. Very alien-esque, and the nose is kind of like not there, which I think was what you're referring to, the nose of an alien.
That and the way
no bridge.
The bridge of his nose being widened from the melting.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so I don't know if I made this point through the Potcat yet, but is it not a bad film? I do not think A Nightmare on Elm Street 2010 is a bad film.
It's not a bad film.
It's definitely not. It's not Robert Englund, who is Freddy Krueger, who is all the personality, the horror, the comedy.
He brought the whole feel to it, and from the beginning to the end, really, in the whole franchise of Nightmare on Elm Street.
The Jackie Earl Haley, and it's not necessarily, I'm not putting it all on him or anything like that. It's a combination of the entire film, aspects of, the script and whatnot, but it does not feel so much like a dream or a nightmare, but he does sound menacing, creepy, and eerie. Okay, maybe it's still like a nightmare.
The movie was inspired by The Dark Knight. When the movie came out,
Wait a minute, what?
Fangoria Bayer admitted that The Dark Knight heavily influenced how they approached A Nightmare on Elm Street. Bear said he wanted it to be
realistic?
Yeah, I told all my cast and crew that we must do with Freddy what Christopher Nolan did with Batman, and I'm trying to make a dark and serious movie.
The first one was dark and serious. And much more effective. I do love how they go into his backstory.
Yeah, they really covered a lot of things that the first Nightmare on Elm Street were afraid to go when it came to the child molestation.
Yeah, they took it because it's scarier that way. It's more realistic.
It's creepier that way.
Yes. So they didn't have to deal with the censorship of the character at this point. And I don't even know.
Yeah, they didn't have a reputation of Robert Englund or the character to consider, and it's just so common for molestation that they didn't want to even address it in the 80s, that now it really is unfortunately common and should be addressed.
Yeah, you can really, then you start to feel the entire aspect of the damage of that through the characters, through Nancy and through what's his name,
and it shows with the way they approach it with predators and how they approach children, and they say, if you won't tell. So you see this this remembering dream type sequence.
You won't tell was from
where Freddie's
Freddie's
wife is yelling, "I won't tell." We figure out that she's found out that he's a molester.
No, that's where he's a murderer. You're talking about Freddie's dead.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Left.
Oh, that's left.
Every time she said right, she meant left because we are Tretulanian and that's how we speak.
I still think I'm right.
Which-
Left. Anyway, yeah, you see that he was not supposed to tell. Okay, so the reason I'm confusing these two things is because he tells the little girl,
Potcat.
his favorite girl,
Should have explained this in the first instead of the last episode.
that she was his favorite.
He really liked to stick his
Whatever he did to
dick
her.
inside
He's
of
a
a child.
gardener.
Ugh.
He's a
Ew.
gardener.
Ugh.
So Freddie in this one is a gardener.
Yuck.
He's plays with all the children, and that's how predators are in real life. If you watch those real life
And they all love
stories,
him. They love him. They're getting
yeah,
along.
it's always a family friend, a friend, someone
A pop singer.
who you can trust. That you think you wouldn't suspect, but always suspect
But
everybody.
never her lover.
What?
A Billie Jean.
Oh. So
I like Michael Jackson's
and
music.
so you have this guy approaching these children like a friend, and you think, oh, he's a nice guy. And originally in this movie, they were going to go with the concept that
you think
Freddie was a nice guy and that he wasn't a child molester. But
Back to
went
Robert
back.
Englund's first idea of him being innocent. And for a while in the
Uh-huh.
film, the characters make us believe they were making up stories as kids that he was innocent. But then they find the camera Polaroids and realize
Yeah.
he's-
So okay.
Oh, yeah.
So this Freddie tells this girl, "Don't tell anybody," and or doesn't he tell her? He tells her, "Don't tell anybody," or it's all your fault. It's all your fault that I did this, and he's on top of her in her dream, right before her boyfriend's trying to wake her up, and that's really creepy because real real molesters and rapists tell the little kids that it's their fault and that they shouldn't tell anybody. And
It's like I'm too high for this. It's
To-
like
to
damaging
really-
my brain. I'm like, ugh.
yeah, and it's not her fault. Obviously, he's trying to keep this girl Lori in her. No, what's
Nancy.
her Nancy? Sorry, I'm thinking of the last movie. Like, this is how I get high. I confuse names. I turn into a mom and I start saying son instead of daughter and all this shit. Okay, anyway. Yeah, Nancy is stuck with Freddie in the dream world. And he's trying to keep her there.
Oh, that is terrifying. Yeah.
And she's trying to pull
Hostage.
him.
It's
Is this
terrifying.
left? Is this left? She's trying to pull him into her world. Well, she does, or she.
She does. They kill him the same way that Nancy killed him in the original, as well as Freddy's dead.
So they keep some themes from the old Nightmare on Elm Street in this new one.
Wasn't some of his dialogue in here as well the same as original Freddy in the previous films?
Left, but they didn't say bitch or anything like that. No bitches in this one.
And he's much shorter than Robert Englund, which it was freaky. I don't know. It's a good film. It's enjoyable. It's a dark tone. So they kill him with those paper slicers. They rip it off and
Open boxes?
hack him to pieces. Okay, or they cut his head off, not fully.
Oh.
They should have completely decapitated him, I thought. But they kill him as you would a normal human being. At the end, once they pulled him out of the dream sequence.
Okay, so we have that, what is this? Craven commented. I don't even know who's doing. Oh yeah, they didn't even ask Wes Craven for help on the script at all. They didn't ask his opinion about the movie. Craven commented, I don't even know who's working on the new script, right? And I'm not interested in it. I'm not interested. It's actually really painful to think about it. It's the film of mine that I probably love the most and which made the most money.
Yeah, I could get that. Somebody pretty much destroying or pissing, desecrating one
His
of your
original.
passion films, passion projects.
That was not meant to be a franchise or sequels to it or anything like that. Yeah.
I don't think any
Actually,
of this hurts.
Actually, I think he hoped for a franchise, just not a sequel.
I heard he didn't want a sequel or remake
Oh.
or any of it, except for the first one. And then but he had more ideas, and everybody had ideas. And there's no even the worst film in the series does not harm the other films in any sort of way. I don't think.
Okay.
Each film is its own thing, and the first one will always be the masterpiece.
Absolutely.
A New Nightmare will always be my second favorite, and I think a fucking masterpiece.
You
The
know-
sequels, I don't think there's any masterpieces in there, but there's stuff that is pure genius. Like
They wanted to do a sequel with this new Nightmare on Elm Street. They wanted to contract the actors Earl Haley and Rooney Mara
to sign on for multiple films.
for sequels. Haley was supposed to return for at least 2 more films, and Mara at least 1 more film.
Well, hopefully they never do that again.
Yeah, fans will never see a sequel to the 2010 Nightmare on Elm Street. Warner Bros. Is supposedly working on it.
And Michael Bay can take his reboot of A Nightmare on Elm Street with his reboot of Friday the 13th, and he could just do, a reboot of Freddy vs. Jason, but it'd be just like, the impotent version.
The
essentially.
impotent version. Freddy Krueger Reborn.
Talk a lot of trash cat.
The glove. You know how long it took for the glove to be made for this movie?
I don't even care.
We
I'm
don't-
not interested in at least a
3
bit.
to 4 weeks. It took 3 to 4 weeks for them to work on the hat.
That's not. Oh, the hat.
The hat. Yeah. Oh no, the glove. The glove. The glove.
I was
the
going to
glove.
say you're really overthinking it if you spend
glove,
a month
the
thinking
glove.
about. Well,
The glove. Yeah.
that's not bad. It's pretty quick. I mean, considering. I mean, it sort of actually is pretty long considering it was
they were
already
still
designed
fixing the
from
rim of the.
original one.
They were fixing the rim of the fedora even on the set of it, like filming it. Like they were still hadn't even perfected the fedora rim. Isn't that awful?
It looks like a cheap one you'd find at the costume store 20 years ago.
Yeah, it took them 3 weeks for them to perfect that shit.
I know you might be out there listening to us and say, "Hey, fuck you! I was wardrobe on that film," but chances are you're not. So.
I think the wardrobe people were let's see, someone was credited for it, and I believe the one who
These
worked
is
on
the
it was
nephews
the,
of Michael
remember
Bay
that really cool
that he planned
part
to
in
kill.
Freddy Krueger where a Nightmare on Elm Street movie where
Nightmare on Krueger
where
Street.
Krueger Street where the part where that big Freddy, I can't concentrate when you're doing that. When that big Freddy chest was out there, the souls were piercing through. It was like
Oh,
that
the
on
fourth
set.
one?
Yeah, I think she was the one that worked on the hat. Anyway,
Oh, well, sorry. You did a great job in the other one. I mean, the hat looked good too. I'm not saying the hat looked bad or anything. Well, I did say it looked bad. It looks bad in this photo here on Wikipedia.
So Samuel Bayer was the director on this movie, and this was his first feature film directorial debut.
Hey, the direction is not bad at all. It's pretty damn good, if you ask me. So you did a great job, dude.
He worked on Nirvana's "Smells Like Teen Spirit."
I like that band and that song.
He worked on Blind Melon's "No Rain."
I've never heard of it, but it sounds rainy.
All
I like
I
melons.
can say is that my life is pretty plain.
Oh, that's a good song,
With
yes.
the little bumblebee girl. Okay. And Garbage is only happy when it rains.
Garbage only happy when it rains.
I'm only happy when it rains.
Oh, well, that's not true for me, so... I like the director, but I hate the producer.
Yeah, you
I
got
like the actor, but I don't care too much for the character.
It's funny that you don't care for the producer again because it was because of Michael
He
Bay
started.
that this director was directing the movie, because he turned it down twice, only agreed to do it after receiving an impassioned email from Michael Bay. That's when he finally agreed to direct this movie.
Well, Michael Bay did a good job there, I suppose, but in the end, it's the worst one in all of them, can't you see? Anyway, so I don't have nothing else to say about this film other
I
than
do. It was
okay.
filmed. We want. These are other little things.
It's sort of like Rob Zombie's Halloween, where we get a more clear backstory with him in the garden playing hide and go seek with the kids, and then to the part where it gets creepy and they kill him.
Our favorite part was when they finally did show the mob of parents killing,
striking in to
Kruger.
kill this child molester. Killer.
Yeah, they definitely showed the burning part, and I think we all wanted to see that growing up.
I was still waiting to see those 3 firefly demons. Like, hey, you wanna join?
Maybe
us?
they were going to incorporate them
want it
after.
all.
Yeah.
No, they did not go that direction at all.
Let's see. They had alternate endings, and of course you can see all this stuff on the DVD, Blu-ray, special features,
Laser disc,
alternate endings.
beta tape.
An alternate final sequence has Quentin encounters Kruger in a dilapidated church. Additional footage of Freddie killing one of the Elm Street parents in a bedroom dream sequence, and another is an alternate ending of Freddie bursting from sleeping Quentin, or whatever, from a sleeping Quentin.
Whatever.
There's just a bunch of alternate endings. Nancy as she drowns in the blood-flooded hallway. Kruger
After the elevators open up and Jack Lawrence is after her. Nancy!
Here's Kruger. Yeah. There's a bunch of alternate endings. Kruger confronting Chris in a candlelit lair. Dean's alternate death. Chris hosts a garden party which ends with Dean falling to his death. Just a bunch of...
I see you have it there about it wasn't filmed in 3D. I could see a legitimate argument against releasing it in 3D if it were not filmed that way.
I saw this, right? Yeah, anytime they incorporated 3Ds in movie, they find it very gimmicky.
I love that gimmick, but you have to keep the gimmick in mind when you create it in order to really make it pop. Cool.
It's funny because you always hear the actors say, yeah, I had to look somewhere when there wasn't anything there. Well, duh, it's called imagination.
We already talked about this in the previous episode when we talked about...
We spoke about it in private.
No, we spoke about it in, not Freddy's Dead, but Dream Child.
Did we?
Yes, because the actress in the stop motion up on a diving board.
I'm just repeating crap. I'm regurgitating it for you in case you didn't hear our other episode.
So if you vote meow for your favorite Nightmare on Elm Street thing in our poll that I have no idea what I'm talking about, you can win a free Death Cat tape cassette with a digital download or perhaps a CD.
I love that.
How do you win by selecting your favorite? Well, we shall determine that left meow. How do they win?
Pick a number between whatever. 5. Because that's probably how many people are listening. 5 people.
Tell us an interesting fact or why the film was super rad or cool. Tell us why you love A Nightmare on Elm Street. Which film you tell us what film you love the most in this series.
Maybe tell us which film and your favorite death. I think that's good. We have to include a death in there.
Yeah, your favorite death out of the entire series.
And if you have more than one, we're all ears.
Yes, unless there's like 1,000 comments and we can't read them all.
Left.
So, okay, this may be very well our last episode of Castle Cat Horror Potcat.
Or, as I like to say, cat, pot, horror, cat, castle.
She finally learned the name
Castle Cat Horror Podcast. Yeah, I learned that on the last day. I learned how to say it forward and backwards.
We're very tempted with returning to cover the Scream franchise. We've been recording most of these on a cellular device microphone.
Yes, let us watch movies and tell you wonderful, interesting facts.
Yes. But it has to be worthwhile, so you have to go to our store and start buying stuff, and we need to make money because we can talk about films. We do it all the time. There's just so many. It's hard to stop ourselves.
We just want to share everything with you. So we really want to share our next list of movies. I'm into
in fact,
Jennifer's Body.
We watched the entire Conjuring universe series of films, thinking we were going to do a podcast on it, and we didn't do it.
I forgot about that.
Same with the they fly. I've been wanting to do one.
We just want to
fly.
watch all these horror movies for you and tell you all these fun facts and hear what you guys have to say and think about them, because if we could have a live conversation with some of you guys, that would be great.
Oh, we'll have special guests, of course, yeah.
Mhm.
Anyway, that's all the time we have, meow. On episode 9 of Castle Cat.
Horror Potcat.
Check out www.deathcat.us on the interspiderweb. Meow.
Yeah.